Leviticus chapter 14, Holman Christian Standard Bible. The Lord spoke to Moses, "This is a law concerning the person afflicted with a skin disease on the day of his cleansing. He is to be brought to the priest, who will go outside the camp and examine him. If the skin disease has disappeared from the afflicted person, the priest will order that two live clean birds, cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop be brought for the one who is to be cleansed. Then the priest will order that one of the birds be slaughtered over the fresh water in a clay pot. He is to take the live bird together with the cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop, and dip them all in the blood of the bird that was slaughtered over the fresh water. He will then sprinkle the blood 7 times on the one who is to be cleansed from the skin disease. He is to pronounce him clean and release a live bird from over the open countryside. The one who is to be cleansed must wash his clothes, shave off all of his hair, and bathe in water, and he is clean. Afterward, he may enter the camp, but he must remain outside the camp for 7 days. He is to shave off all his hair again on the 7th day, his head, his beard, his eyebrows, and the rest of his hair. He is to wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He is clean. On the 8th day, he must take 2 unblemished male lambs, an unblemished year-old ewe lamb, a grain offering of 3 quarts of fine flour mixed with olive oil, and 1/3 of a quart of olive oil. The priest who performs his cleansing will place the person who is to be cleansed together with these offerings before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest is to take 1 male lamb and present it as a restitution offering, along with 1/3 quart of olive oil, and he must wave them as a presentation offering before the Lord. He is to slaughter the lamb at the place in the sanctuary area where the sin offering and burnt offering are to be slaughtered. For like the sin offering, the restitution offering belongs to the priest. It is especially holy. The priest is to take some of the blood from the restitution offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one who to be cleansed, on the right thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then the priest will take some of the 1/3 quart of olive oil and pour it on his left palm. The priest will dip his right finger on the oil in his left palm and sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. From the oil remaining on his palm, the priest will put some of the lobe on the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of the right foot, on top of the blood of the restitution offering. What is left of the oil in the priest's palm, he is to put in the head of the one to be cleansed. In this way, the priest will make atonement for him before the Lord. The priest must sacrifice the sin offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed from his uncleanness. Afterward, he will slaughter the burnt offering. The priest is to offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. The priest will make atonement for him, and he will be clean. But if he is poor and cannot afford these, he is to take 1 male lamb for a restitution offering to be waved in order to make atonement for him, along with 2 quarts of fine flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, 1/3 of a quart of olive oil, and 2 turtle doves of 2 or 2 young pigeons, whoever he can afford, one to be a sin offering and the other a burnt offering. On the 8th day, he is to bring these things for his cleansing to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. The priest will then take the male lamb for restitution offering and the 1/3 quart of olive oil and make them and wave them as a presentation offering before the Lord. After he slaughters the male lamb and the restitution offering, the priest is to take some of the blood of the restitution offering and put it on the right earlobe of the one to be cleansed, on the right thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then the priest will pour some of the oil into his left palm. With his right finger, the priest will sprinkle some of the oil on his left palm 7 times before the Lord. The priest will also put some of the oil in his right palm, on the right earlobe of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of the right hand, and on its big toe of his right foot, on the same place as the blood of the restitution offering. What is left of the oil in the priest's palm, he is to put on the head of the one to be cleansed to make atonement for him before the Lord. He must then sacrifice the one type of what he can afford, either the turtle doves or young pigeons, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, sacrificing what he can afford together with the grain offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for the Lord for the one to be cleansed. This is the law for someone who has a skin disease and cannot afford the cost of his cleansing. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, "When you enter the land of Canaan that I am giving you as a possession, I place a mildew contamination in a house in the land you possess, the owner of the house has to come and tell the priest, something like mildew contamination has appeared in my house. The priest must order them to clear the house before he enters to examine the contamination, so that nothing in the house becomes unclean. Afterward, the priest will come to examine the house. He will examine it, and if the contamination in the walls of the house consists of green or red indentations that appear to be beneath the surface of the wall, the priest is to go outside the house to its doorway and quarantine the house for 7 days. The priest is to return on the seventh day and examine it. If the contamination is spread on the walls of the house, the priest must order that the stones with the contamination be pulled out and thrown into an unclean place outside the city. He is to have the inside of the house completely scraped, and the plaster that is scraped off must be dumped in an unclean place outside the city. Then they must take different stones to replace the former ones and take additional plaster to replace the house. If the contamination reappears in the house after the stones have been pulled out and after the house has been scraped and replastered, the priest must come and examine it. If the contamination is spread in the house, it is harmful mildew. The house is unclean. It must be torn down with its stones, its beams, and all its plaster, and taken outside the city to an unclean place. Whoever enters the house during any of the days the priest quarantines it will be unclean until evening. Whoever lies down in the house is to wash his clothes, and whoever eats it is to wash his clothes. But when the priest comes and examines it, if the contamination is not spread in the house after it is replastered, he is to pronounce the house clean because the contamination has disappeared. He is to take 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop to purify the house. And he is to slaughter one of the birds over a clay pot containing fresh water. He will take the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn, and the live bird, dip them in the blood of the slaughtered bird and the fresh water, and sprinkle it in the house 7 times. He will purify the house with the blood of the bird, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. Then he is to release the live bird into the open countryside outside the city. In this way, he will make atonement for the house, and it will be clean. This is the law for any skin disease or mildew, for a scaly outbreak, for the mildew in clothing or on a house, and for the swelling, scab, or spot to determine when something is clean or unclean. This is the law regarding skin disease and mildew.